The title of the article is called China and the Lore of American Manufacturing. These two guys who are running for Ohio Senate, Tim Ryan, the Democrat, and JD Vance, the Republican, they're kind of overestimating the quality of factory jobs and, how nice their owners are. And it's like, are you trying to save Ohio or are you trying to die on the hill of like, fuck China?
In the 20 something years that I've lived in this country, I would say they're probably going to die on the hill that says fuck China.
Welcome to the Politically Asian podcast. We're just two Asian American comedians talking about politics and the Asian American community in hopes of getting more Asians to talk about politics. We're coming at you live from Brooklyn, New York. My name is Aaron Yin. My pronouns are he, him, and you can find me on social media at Aaron Flarin. That's AARONFLARIN. And my co-host...
Hey, my name is Jerry Lim. My pronouns are they, them. And you can find me across the internet at Jerryaki. That's GERRIEYAKI.
All right, we're going to start the pod off with our opening segment called Practice What You Preach. So on the pod, we talk a lot about politics, but it's also important to do things, which is why each week Jerry and I start the episode by talking about one thing we did related to organizing or politics, stuff outside talking about it. And this week, I'll go first. So this week, I've been working with, the group Youth Against Displacement to put together this party for an affordable housing complex known as Knickerbocker Village. We just call it KV. The reason we're doing this party is because back in March, this big company was trying to buy their building, and the tenants all organized together to file a lawsuit that has stopped the sale temporarily for 7 months now. So this party is like both to celebrate that long overdue lawsuit, but also to organize tenants for the later fight, because some tenants are actually siding with the sale now because the company wants to give everyone like a 3-year rent freeze, which is good short term. But after 3 years, they, who knows what they could do, right? So it's also about mobilizing people and bringing them together for a longer fight, not just in their own building, but stopping displacement overall in like Two Bridges, Lower East Side, and Chinatown.
Oh, interesting. Wait, so they've been doing it. They've been managed to put it off for 7 months. Like, so what's happening now? Like, are the people who are going to buy them out, like, have they changed plans, or are they going to do something soon?
Oh, no, I don't think they've changed plans at all. They still want the building, but right now they can't do anything while the lawsuit's not settled yet. So it's going to be a lengthier process, but it's definitely not over. And the company still wants this building.
Yeah, that's wild. So how are they paying like legal fees and stuff like that? Yeah,
so they also had their own like GoFundMes and also donations. I actually spent part of this week calling all of the donors to let them know about this as well. But yeah, there are so many people who chipped in some big amounts. I think they needed like $5,000 total, a couple thousand at least. But it was just literally going door to door. There's like over 1,000 people who live in this public housing complex.
That's pretty interesting because like if everyone just gave $5, which I know that could be a lot for some people, so like I understand, but like it, theoretically you could go to every door, ask $5, and you'd have a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the reality is more like half the people don't even care, and then the other half may want the sale, and then you have a few people who donate like more money.
I can't imagine like the idea of just giving in because you get a rent freeze for 3 years. If I were them, I would kind of be in the camp of like, oh, but we could have cheaper rent for a lot longer if we just all held on.
Yeah, that's part of the point, right? It's all about like short term versus long term. That's how I understand it right now. I don't think I'm messing up any of the big facts, but I'll know more after this Sunday as well, because this has been something I've been less involved in, because the tenants and the people who used to be part of Youth Against Displacement, they were in charge of it more, but the ball's kind of dropped a little bit. So
no, I mean, like, it's just like I've moved every year that I've lived in New York, I feel like, until now, like, so even 3 years, it would be like, I would like to live in a place a lot longer than just, another 3 years.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was me. What have you been up to this week?
This week I haven't really been leaving the house too much. Between like the last remnants of my booster and just hanging out with my partner because she's doing a lot of traveling. But I did sit down and like look at my finances, and I realized that I don't really have a budget for donations, which is something that I definitely want to do. Yeah. So I redid my finances. And for those of you who don't know, I was raised Catholic, and there's a really specific rule that I grew up with. I don't know if it's in the Bible or what, but it was to like give 10% of your income to the church. That's cool. I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I was just like trying to calculate like what's a good amount that would make me feel like better about myself if like I gave that amount every month to like random mutual aids I come across on social media, that kind of thing. Yeah.
It's like relieving a different kind of guilt.
Not the Catholic one. Not the Catholic
guilt.
The
Catholic one. That's cool though. Yeah, I've not done that at all, but that's really cool. Do you have some groups in mind that you already know, or is that going to come after you kind of figure out the budgeting thing first?
So I'm trying to think. It's funny you mentioned GoFundMe's, because like I typically have a rule that I don't actually do GoFundMe's unless like I know.
Ooh.
Yeah, like one of the organizers, something like that. I think like there was a couple years back when the Amazon was on fire or something like that. There was a scandal with like GoFundMe, and people were taking the money and not using it for, something like that. So I typically look for posts that are like, there's a picture associated with like an individual, so like mutual aids that have Venmos and Cash Apps. But I did donate money for Puerto Rico.
Nice.
Post-storm. Yeah. One of my friends has family in Puerto Rico, so I was like, okay, like, I mean, I feel comfortable donating to him,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that counts.
And he posted his receipts. He posted the literal receipt of like donations. So there's that.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. That's good. Nice. All right, that's the opening segment, and now let's get into the news this week in Asian American politics. So the first thing we have on the docket is this article published by Tammy Kim, from Time to Say Goodbye. The title of the article is called China and the Lure of American Manufacturing. In Ohio's Senate race, both candidates are employing anti-Asian rhetoric and neglecting to hold corporations to account. Jerry, what's one thought you had about this article?
I like how Aaron has to preface every segment with one thought, because I have so many thoughts.
Yeah.
I will start off with this. This whole like anti-Chinese communist propaganda hate has always been so funny to me, because I know deep down inside American ultra-capitalists would love nothing more than to put so many human bodies to work in a factory and have like incredible margins where they don't pay their workers and make a lot of money. They're secretly in love.
Yeah. I agree with that. Every corporation is like, I wish I could squeeze that much out of every worker and not pay them as much.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of see that too with all these strikes going on, whether it's like a coal miner strike or a steel workers strike. The bosses are not on the workers' side at all. Yeah. I mean, that does seem to be the thing that's bringing Democrats and Republicans together in this Ohio race. Both of them are really going tough on China as the cause. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting was how obsessed with manufacturing Ohio is, even though it's not even a big industry in their state anymore. It reminds me of, I think about a typical like white dad who keeps talking about how he was on his high school's varsity football team or something like that. Yeah. Does that make sense? As he's always throwing back.
You gotta hold on to it. Yeah. There's nostalgic.
Yeah, wearing that varsity jacket. But yeah, so many times in this article they talk about nostalgia. Everyone wants these manufacturing jobs to come back in the heyday when unions were really strong and the New Deal and all that. But I'm like, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, I thought there's been several reports that like, if anything, unions have gotten weaker or like less common over the
Yeah, unions and also manufacturing jobs apparently, dude, like many of them they don't have benefits and they make about as much as an Amazon warehouse worker, which we're talking about like $15 to $20 per hour.
Yeah, I forgot to do research on Midwest minimum wage. You're a little closer geographically, so maybe you know, but I know Alabama it was $7.25. So you tell someone that it's $15 to $20. I mean, that kind of sounds good.
Yeah, oh, that's true. No, wait, that's a great point. I just searched it up. As of January, Ohio's minimum wage is $9.30. And I guess just for fun, I know Arkansas was really close to Alabama. We're looking at like about 750. 750. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's true. Okay, from that perspective, it is like more than minimum wage. But yeah, it just seemed like everyone's really nostalgic for this industry that's so behind and not there anymore. But one thing I did like about this article was how much they talked about the healthcare sector. Mm-hmm. They're just saying how nursing is like a huge part of Ohio's economy, and no Chinese company is going to send nurses over to America to try to steal their jobs, but no one seems to be focusing on that.
Yeah, the Chinese aren't going to send people to replace nurses because the Filipinos already do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But I thought it was a great point because like nursing's doing well, and I was talking with my partner about this. Maybe there's some aspect of masculinity involved because like everyone in nursing is. I mean, that's what Tammy says in the article as well, though. But how like nursing is primarily women and like manufacturing is primarily guys. But it's like, if you really want to save Ohio's economy, why not just focus more on the healthcare sector that's doing well? Yeah.
That's really interesting. Like, imagine being killed by toxic masculinity, literally as because of your economy. Like, that's wild. Like, it's literally costing you to be toxic.
Yeah. I mean, these two guys who are running for Ohio Senate, Tim Ryan, the Democrat, and JD Vance, the Republican. Yeah. Like they both don't say anything about it. They're kind of overestimating the quality of factory jobs and how nice their owners are, and just totally ignoring. It's like, are you trying to save Ohio or are you trying to die on the hill of like fuck China?
I mean, in the 20-something years that I've lived in this country, I would say they're probably going to die on the hill that says fuck China.
Yeah, yeah.
What else I thought was good was just the quotes coming from both of the politicians. Very much the same energy as Andrew Yang's op-ed from a couple years back, where Vance was like, if you're an American and you're here, you're on the team, which means a lot of Asian America is on the team.
Who?
I mean, I don't know. I forgot to write down if this quote was from the other guy or who it was from, but basically said, we need Asian Americans to help us and participate in making sure that a communist government like China does not displace the United States.
Oh, yeah. I think that was actually from the Democrat.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Oh, he knows the word displacement. Nice. But yeah, in the wrong, a weird context.
I'm not surprised if it's the Democrat, though. Wasn't it Biden who told Muslim Americans that we need help? We need Muslim American help to fight ISIS or something like that. Do you remember that?
No, I don't, but I'm not surprised. Yeah. I think the story is also just interesting because it could happen in every other place where an industry is dying and somehow link it to China being the cause. I guess manufacturing is probably the biggest one, but I'm who knows what could happen later on with globalization and products, and I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the immigrants are stealing our jobs narrative has been, that's been going on for years. That's not new. All right, cool. Well, moving on to our next topic. So in Iran, people are protesting the death of a young woman named Mahsa Amini. She was arrested by the Iranian morality police. Yes, they're actually called that. It's an agency that enforces their country's rules on hijabs and other Islamic beliefs. And she's believed to have passed because she suffered multiple blows to her head. and people are protesting, and it's getting kind of wild out there. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had no idea they had a morality police. That just sounds extremely strict and bad. I had no idea wearing the hijab was. I mean, this is okay. I guess preface all this with I knew very little about Iran prior to this, but I didn't realize just how important wearing the hijab was and how heavily policed it was. Apparently, I'll add this. It's like CNN was trying to do an interview with the president, and he didn't do the interview because he requested the journalist to wear hijab, and when she said no, he left. I was like, wow.
Oof.
This shit is like, I'm like, wow, this shit is serious. Yeah, it's a really sticking point. I don't know. Like, what's another thought you had about this?
Yeah, it was kind of wild to see everyone who's getting involved. I mean, like you got your typical like, all right, the UN's getting involved, Human Rights Watch. But I was reading the Wikipedia page, which is also cool to see like updated in real time. Like they had stuff from like today, but Anonymous got involved.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, and then like on the Wikipedia page, it also says like goals of the protest, and it's like overthrow the government, establish a democracy, disband the police, which I was like, oh, I feel like we have very similar goals.
Yeah.
And then, revoke mandatory requirements in public law, blah, 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 blah. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on that point of similarity, there were some articles talking about this protest in Iran versus like George Floyd protests.
Yeah.
I guess maybe similarities. It's like a key person was killed, murdered, who is like galvanizing the movement. Definitely some differences in like gender, race, and religion. But yeah, I think the larger thing that we both pointed out was just like, this is obviously really important, but whenever Western media, like America, really hyper focuses on something, that is always like a red flag to me, like that is straight up just a red flag. And I think a shorter note is just that the U.S. obviously has a lot of interest in Iran. They've been doing economic sanctions for a while. There's a lot of conflict because of nuclear weapons. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like I definitely want to disclose to our listeners that we're two East Asian Americans like looking at this, so that's kind of how we're perceiving it. But from that point of view, it seems it's kind of evident that the whole issue is steeped in like misogyny, really, and like policing women's bodies. That said, Westerners will be quick to comment and jump in because they want to have their Islamophobic moment, like anything to decry Islam. And it was interesting to see who was coming out of the woodwork to like make comments. Nancy Pelosi, she condemned the murder. She's going to be seen in a hijab next. Like, I can already see it. And then, like you and I were like talking about this article where like a Republican Senator Tom Cotton criticized the Biden administration for being silent on Iran. He said they were selling out the Iranian protesters because he has a blind obsession with like a terrible nuclear deal. For context, Tom Cotton is the guy who said we should pull the military out on like the Black Lives Matter protesters. So yeah.
Tom Cotton is also from Arkansas, my home state. Once again, reaffirming my belief that Arkansas never makes the news unless it's for something bad.
Yeah, truly.
For now. Yeah, he was also the, specifically related to Iran. He's been very hawkish is the word. Like in 2015, he said we should go to war for Iran to try to stop their nukes. And a military attack on Iran would only take a few days. Sorry, several days. But I'm like, okay, very confident in the U.S. military given, like Afghanistan and stuff like that. And I don't know.
That's true. That's true.
I'm like, yeah. So at least we can confidently say like he is probably saying this with ulterior motives and disingenuous reasons.
Yeah. I like that one line in the article that was like, Politico dubbed him in 2019 the, quote, most outspoken champion for bombing Iran. And now it's like, oh, now you care about the people.
Oh my God, the most outspoken champion. Oh my God, that it just sounds like they're handing him a trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anything else you want to add on this?
The last name Cotton is just so funny to me. It's like the only white name that's more white than having the last name white.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. I was telling you earlier. It's like I wonder if he just got that name from like his grandparents' stuff. Like that sounds very like slavery era cotton. Like it's like a thing.
Well, the thing about white people is that they like, I know a lot of Europeans like got their last names based on like what they did. Like Smith was like blacksmithing, things like that. So Cotton.
Plantation owner.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Maybe it's yeah, it was too on the nose, so they changed it to cotton, you know? Hey, if you're still listening to this podcast right now, thank you for making it this far. Just want to do a quick shout out, quick plug. If you like our podcast, please take a few seconds on your phone to go to Apple or Spotify and click 5 stars. That really helps us out. And if you really want to support us, also, you can feel free to donate on Patreon at patreon.com/politicallyasian. We're currently raising money to, provide episode transcriptions, get a video editor, and more. All right, back to the episode. Tom Plantation owner.
Stop. Oh my god.
All right, so the next thing we're going to involves a trial with a person called Adnan Syed. And you may have heard about this trial through a very popular podcast called Serial. Long story short, Adnan was dating someone named Hae Min Lee, and they were both in high school when she was murdered. And he was accused of being the person who murdered her. However, through a lot of research and revisiting the case, they basically did not find a lot of evidence. The prosecution did not find a lot of evidence to support this, so they dropped it, and he was finally allowed to be released from prison after 23 years. Jerry, one thought on this.
I hate true crime.
Yeah.
I don't listen to Serial, but I do watch Only Murders in the Building, which is partial parody of the true crime genre.
Oh, okay.
And I don't like true crime because it feels like they're deriving entertainment from like, these are real people with real lives who were viciously, typically viciously murdered. That said, I can also recognize that in this instance, I'm willing to bet Serial did play a part in like reviewing the case and overturning stuff. So still, I think it does more harm than good.
Oh, spicy.
The genre, not this one case. Yeah.
I don't listen to true crime at all, but I was like, I heard about this case only through Serial, and even in New York City, I don't know if you know, but like they're doing some kind of documentary or on Hulu or HBO about this. And so I've been seeing more posters about it just on the subway.
Why are they doing a documentary here when it took place in like not here?
I have not here in New York City, like the posters advertising the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
Yeah. No. But there is some really long New York Times articles and New York articles on this, but yeah, long story short, this happened back in 1999. So this was like pre-2000, Y2K, computers, very early stage. I imagine like DNA testing also very early stage, or less good. And there were just so many inconsistencies. Like they found some other people who had histories of doing this and were more suspect, but they ended up going with Adnan. It sounds, my own takeaway is like, this is really shitty for both him and for the family of Hae Min Lee. It's like, he was wrong. It sounds like he was wrongly accused. As far as I see, everything seems like he was wrongly accused. They didn't really find the person who actually murdered her, so it's in this weird, shitty limbo right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think it must be so hard because, like, especially for the Korean family involved, like, you think you got the guy, and then it's not the guy. So on top of, like, seeing this guy has just been imprisoned, like, you still don't know who did it, and, like, there's still no justice.
Yeah.
So it's really, I can't even imagine. I will say, like, what I took away from another thing I took away from this was just kind of like, it feels like yet another reminder that, one, the criminal justice system is super flawed here in America, and two, I think like it's even more flawed when it involves people of color.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, it just seems like Adnan was also just like the criminal defense lawyer he had. Everyone's saying now that she was almost about to retire, and if she went one way instead of the other, then she would get more money. I think the way she went, it was not in favor of Adnan.
Yeah.
I don't have the exact details anymore, but and the lawyer actually died, so no one can even talk to her anymore. So yeah, no, I agree with that, and just historically, like I'm always thinking about Ava DuVernay's like whole documentary series, like when they see us, real strong example of just how the law really fails non-white people, black people. I guess in this case, it's like just non-white people. Yeah.
I mean, like if people need like a an Asian case, I mean, we talk about Yang Song all the time and like Christian Hall, but like also I know right now on Netflix it's like the #1 show, the Jeffrey Dahmer series.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And while I said I hate true crime, I did sit down and speed watch it just because like Jeffrey Dahmer is like, that's like, I don't know. But what was interesting was that there was a Laotian family involved, and yeah, not one but two of the two sons of the Laotian families were victims of Dahmer's, and
whoa.
Yeah, both of them got away. It was separate instances, and both of them got away, but one of them was returned back to Dahmer by the police, and the police didn't believe the black witness who was there, who was like, no, this is very clearly a child who doesn't know this man, he's about to do something bad, and the police just
holy
shrugged
shit.
them off. Yeah, it was super super hard to watch, but yeah, it was just another reminder that these systems don't serve us, and it seems like a trap to keep asking for something that won't help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Wow, I had no idea. Dude, white people talk about this guy so much. I was just like, I really don't care about it. But now that I know that some of the victims were Asian, I'm like, okay, I should maybe look into it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know Jeffrey Dahmer was gay. I didn't know this whole, most of his victims were men, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. The only reason I was interested in it is because there was this one, I think it was in a Katy Perry song. There was I forgot who the rapper was, but he said he would eat your heart out like Jeffrey Dahmer, and I've always thought about that line.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll speed watch the series.
Wow, shout out to Katy Perry's the rapper in that song for igniting a true crime interest.
Yeah, I mean, but now I know that there's this Laotian family that was a victim of this man.
Yeah. I mean, my instant thought is racist murders, or was it just two of them and he picked people from everywhere?
No, he really picked people from everywhere. He picked a lot of gay men from everywhere is the better answer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving on. This past week was September 21st, which marked the 50th anniversary of Marcos declaring martial law in the Philippines back in the 1970s. And for the first time in 15 years, his son came to the U.S. to speak with President Biden and also address the UN. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel like I will have less thoughts since I have zero connection to the Philippines, but I feel like this week was me reading a lot about the Philippines, reading the meme that you made, and just also reading about Ferdinand Marcos Sr. and now Ferdinand Marcos Jr. I'll just say it's cool that to see a lot of, I guess, Filipinos in New York were also really active about this, just reading about some protests wherever this guy went. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., they protested him at the UN General Assembly. Apparently he passed by the stock market at some point. They also protested him there because he was trying to raise investments for the Philippines for tourism. But it's cool. It's cool to see people turn out. I've just been kind of observing all the different photos and videos.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of. I want to know how they knew where he was going to show up. Yeah, and very paparazzi.
Yeah, I'm sure it's followed that big entourage of guys in suits, right?
That's true. That's true.
The limo tour. Yeah, I saw you also in that meme you made had listed several properties that they own in New York City.
Yeah, so I'm doing my best to not give my book report right now, but TLDR, the Marcos they used a lot of like public government money to buy a bunch of private properties, and several of those properties were here in New York. I can't list all of them, but there were a couple. And if you've ever wondered how the Philippines has a embassy in the dead middle of Fifth Avenue, he's the guy. That's why.
Yeah, I was gonna say like all the buildings, they're generally in about like the Midtown and Times Square area. Like these are pretty expensive buildings, like close to Central Park. Like these are all really expensive buildings. I mean, you listed out some prices. It's like 700 mil, 700 mil, 600 mil.
Those are adjusted for today's values.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also important too.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
That's already the reason why people always buy land here. But yeah, they're like really prime real estate areas. So I was like, wow, that's a lot of buildings.
It's funny because Ferdinand Marcos Sr. bought 40 Wall Street, which is where I got my booster last week. And he was the guy who owned it before Trump.
Oh, wow. You're like, oh, it feels like home. I don't know. I wonder why. So Marcos Jr. was meeting with Biden, and just to kind of summarize, they were basically trying to repair the relationship that I guess Duterte, who was previously in charge, had kind of ruined. But yeah, they're all kind of just buddy now. They're talking a lot about being anti-China and discussing the South China Sea a little bit. So always interested in hearing how that's going to play out in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny that, like, here in America, if there's one thing you can bond over, it's hating Chinese people.
Yeah.
I know the U.S. really cares about the Philippines because geographically speaking, it's a good vantage point if they ever want to step in to Taiwan. And
and also just the history of military bases in the Philippines, right?
Yes.
I feel like in general, whenever we're reading about a different country, one thing that I always Google now is like CIA intervention in that country, and there's a page for the Philippines, and
of course there is.
They did talk about how the CIA was really involved during Marcos Sr.'s era to just bribe any politician who challenged the presence of U.S. military bases, or the second part is the dominance of American corporations. So. Yeah, they're always there. Nixon didn't really do anything to counter Marcos. He just kind of let him run free because mainly the military basis and also just strong anti-communism vibes. But every article that talked about their relationship, they worded it really funny. They said, like, the U.S. and the Marcos clan have had a long and colorful relationship.
Colorful.
The U.S. government supported the Marcos regime until a people's uprising sent the family packing into exile.
But they came to the U.S., so
yeah,
I mean...
exactly. Yeah, it's long history.
I mean, if anyone's gonna love, I guess it's not technically a war crime, but if anyone's gonna love someone of that level, it's gonna be the United States.
Yeah, for sure. It's just always interesting how by researching a present day event, you also learn about everything the CIA and the U.S. did before. And I'm like, oh, okay. Always a nice little learning moment.
Yeah. What else I thought was interesting was that Marcos technically is like being held in contempt of court. He hasn't paid, like, the government. The U.S. government was like, you got to pay back like $2 billion to your people.
Yeah.
And, the Marcos don't believe that they do. And I was like, okay, but how come he's not going to get arrested the minute he lands in New York? And so apparently there were 3 reasons as to why he could come here. One, he just had permission from U.S. courts, which I guess you can do now, I guess. He has immunity as for being a head of state as the new president.
Yep.
And I love what this article said. I think this is this article is like broader view of the interests of the Philippines-U.S. alliance, which sounds sketchy.
Yeah, that was suspicious. Yeah. Not funny, haha. Funny, weird.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I don't know, it's very similar to what it is here in the U.S. in terms of like just like a lot of cognitive dissonance about like what happened, and the Filipinos who do remember what martial law and Marcos was like, yeah, they he's not liked, like they want him to pay everything back and blah 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 blah. He's like an enemy of the people, and it's just really wild to see the US welcome this dude with like open arms. Like, I know he's a president, but like
Yeah, no.
like
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, but like still, like with my own two eyes, I am watching this.
Yeah. I was like, yo, maybe we should go check it out if there's something else going on. I think he might be gone by now, but I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe it's worth checking out. Yeah.
Oh, my parents, even, they were like, my parents and I don't agree on almost anything politically, but the one thing we agree on is like that this guy is bad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that the Marcos are bad, but I think like it's because like they have lived experience on this. So that's like the one thing, because I remember like asking them, since my parents can still vote in the Philippines. I was like, oh, like, who are you going to vote for? This was like a couple months ago. I was like, who are you going to vote for? And they were like, we are never voting for a Marcos ever.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Did they get the Manny Pacquiao vote?
No, they surprisingly no. They but that comes from their experience in healthcare, because like Manny Pacquiao kind of has like he might have a Swiss cheese brain from boxing, So they're like, he might not be super great as a politician, decision maker kind of guy. Yeah.
Okay, that's what he Swiss cheese brain.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And the last story we have for today, it's more New York City focused. But the New York City subway is installing security cameras in every train car. Jerry, how do you feel about our new panopticon overlords?
How the fuck are you going to pay for this? Didn't y'all say you were broke? I'm confused.
Yeah. Yo, I mean, on that point, there was someone in this New York Times articles who said, like, part of the reason they want to put this is because it could help the MTA save money from, like, property damage and shit like that. Like, I don't know, like urination and vandalism, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I'm just like, yo, like, weren't we supposed to get some like protective barriers to prevent people from getting pushed into the trains? What happened to that?
Yes.
I feel like, yeah.
Yes, at 3 stations, and I don't think that was happening anytime soon. It felt like this happened a lot faster. Yeah,
I mean, in part because we had a subway shooter. And of course the cameras that were supposedly there like just happened to not work. So I guess I can see like a little rationale for having cameras somewhere, but like their whole logic of if we put more surveillance and make this like a Big Brother type situation, it's going to reduce crime is not true. And some people in here are also citing actual data. Like ridership is lower, but per capita crime is actually up. It's actually, I don't know if that really relates. That's just like a separate thing, but it's like
no, I think you're correct, because I remember reading that statistic and it blew my fucking mind. But the whole you have to say the whole stat, which is the number of crimes is actually the same as pre-pandemic. Like
yes.
July 2019. But because ridership is down, because there's less people, it like per capita crime rate is up, which is like,
math.
Wow.
Math.
Yeah. Math.
and using
fractions.
Using math to support a certain point, right? Yeah, but I'm just like, in New York City, we never have problem getting people on camera, minus this subway shooter incident. It's always just like we never address the root causes, and we just never do anything to stop it overall.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just don't see how these will be effective, Like, for me, like, cameras are very much, the subway is too big, right? The subway is too big to monitor it the same way you would put cameras on a house, right? Like, when you pick up a house monitor for the cameras, it's like, okay, that's 1/4 of my house. That's 1/4 of my house. I don't know how you're going to do that with a subway. I feel like this is like, these cameras are for like after the crime. Like, we can get the guy after, like we have pictures of him. Mm-hmm. But like I feel like the people who commit these crimes aren't really thinking about what happens after they stab someone, after they shoot someone, like they're like, I'm going to do this now because this will bring me instant gratification.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's all reactive, right? It's not addressing the root. It's just okay, we can catch them a little bit faster now that our camera's not like a fucking potato. Like, great. I don't know. Like, but now when I'm on the subway, I will, start keeping an eye out for it just to see what it looks like. But it's just like, what a waste of taxpayer money again.
It's also just 2 cameras per car. Like,
Yeah.
have you sat in where are these cameras going to be on the subway, on the car that like it covers everyone and you can see, everyone's face with enough detail?
Yeah. They better be really fucking good cameras because most likely they're just going to be put on the front and the back or some shit like that.
Yeah. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
No, actually, I don't. I don't even know if I want them to be good cameras because like then it'll be even more expensive.
Yeah. We keep them potato level for now.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I did like that point though, that like I remember reading that in the article that like someone said they're going to use it to catch the crimes that affect the MTA financially, but not like crimes that affect riders.
Yeah. Like if the subway shooter didn't stain any of the train cars, they would not care, Like
yeah, exactly.
They're more worried about the cleanup than the actual like public safety aspect. Yeah. It's time to vandalize a whole bunch of MTA cars. Yeah.
Right. With churros? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. And that is our episode for this week. Thanks so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast, please feel free to give us 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram at Politically Asian Podcast and on Twitter at Politic Asian Pod. All right. Thanks for listening and bye.